the complete information in a well-structured manner to the user or to the developer. That is why it is called as a black box specification. It is well structured when the document is easy to understand and simple to modify. Hello everyone, it is Dr. Ravi Kumar YB, Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, MYSURU, the Temple of Excellence. In today's session, you are going to learn about the concept of software engineering, that is, the properties of a good SRS document. What is the meaning of SRS? Software Requirement Specification. Then what has to be the good property of a SRS document? Let me take you through that. Now, the essential properties of a good SRS document are as, the first one is concise. What is the meaning of concise? It has to be written very well. That means SRS report should be concise and at the same time unambiguous. There must not be any ambiguity. That is, consistent is also another important property, and complete. Verbose means robust, and irrelevant descriptions decreases readability and also increases error possibilities. What is the meaning of this? Concise is one of the important property which enables the software requirement specification to be implemented very well, to be written very well. Which is the next property? Well structured. That is, structured. What is the meaning of well structured? A document simple to understand and modify. Suppose if it is very difficult to understand, then it is not called as a structured. It is well structured when the document is easy to understand and simple to modify. In practice, the SRS document undergoes several revisions to cope up with the user's requirements. Often, user requirements evolve over a period of time. Therefore, to make the modifications to the SRS document is easy, it is vital to make the report well structured. That means if there is any modifications or any suggestions given by the client, that must be modifiable in the SRS document clearly. Otherwise, it is not called as a well-structured document. So, this is structured, which is the next type of property, that is black box view. It should only define what the system should do and refrain from stating how to do this. This means that the SRS document should define the external behavior of the system and not discuss the implementation issues. That means the abstraction property. Abstraction property, that is called as a black box view. A black box view enables the system's user to make the system work as if it is in terms of general way of description. So that is called as a black box view. If that is the case, the SRS report should view the system to be developed as a black box and should define the externally visible behavior of the system. That is called as this. The SRS report is also known as the black box specification of a system. It is also called as a black box specification of a system because that gives the complete information in a well-structured manner to the user or to the developer. That is why it is called as a black box specification. The other name of SRS document is SRS document is black box specification. If that is the case, conceptual integrity is another important property, that is the conceptual integrity. Third one is black box view. Fourth one is conceptual integrity. What does the mean of conceptual integrity? A conceptual integrity indicates that integration of all these document details into one single document, so that the reader who reads the document will be able to understand very clearly. That is called as the characterizes which is acceptable and responses to unwanted events. These are also called as system responses to exceptional conditions. Suppose if there is any error for a specific type of data given to the system, that has to be handled by the system properly. Then, which is the next property? That is verifiable. That means whatever the requirement stated, requirement 1, requirement 2, requirement 3, requirement 4, so on and so forth, all these must be verifiable. Whether all of these requirements are met properly or not is done by the programmer, that is with the help of a good SRS. Then we have the requirement analysis is significant and essential activity for elicitation, that is for asking the information or collecting the information from client. We analyze, refine and scrutinize the gathered requirements to make consistent and unambiguous requirements. This activity reviews all requirements and may provide a graphical view of the entire system, that is the CPU utilization, memory utilization, and so on other resources utilization. Resource utilization that are represented in terms of graph. Then, after the completion of the analysis, it is expected that the understandability of the project may improve significantly. That is, which is very, very important. Here we may also use the interaction with customer to clarify points of confusion, that is, which is of ambiguous. This ambiguous property must be eliminated. And to understand which requirements are more important than others. Then, if you look at this diagram, it is very much clear that this is the context diagram that is developed and given to the development of prototypes. Once prototype model is developed, model the requirements. Once the model is built, we will come for the final conclusion of requirement specification, that is SRS. The final requirement SRS is built on these steps. That is, once when the client gives the information to user in the form of a description, the developer or the person who elicitates with the client draws a diagram, that is context diagram. All these diagrams are transformed to the form of a prototype model, that is a prototype model is built. Once the prototype model is built, which is going to simulate the actual model, so the actual model is going to define the requirements of a client. That is, what is the requirement of a client is going to be understood with the help of this prototype model. Once when the model is built, we are going to give the model to the user as well as to the company, where the developer is going to start working on it. That is based upon the requirements. So this is how, these are the good qualities of the SRS, that is software requirement specification. Then draw the context diagram. How can we draw the context diagram? In simple model that defines the boundaries and interfaces of the proposed system with the external world. What is the meaning of that? Suppose if there is a system as with some requirements called R1 and R2, R3 and R4 are the requirements of another model, then it delineates the boundary between R1 and R2 from R3 and R4. That is, that has to be defined very well in case of using the context diagram. It defines the entities outside the proposed system that interact with the system. That is, when a user wants to give some information or wants to enter some data to the system, that is going to be entered. That is called as an external data. That external data is going to interact with the internal system. So this internal system interaction is given by the context diagram. See, if you look at this example, you will clearly understand that this is the administrator and marks entry operator. Marks entry operator, subject information entry. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. Student performance is another entity. Mark sheet generated, this is the final entity. Then student information generated is also final entity. Entry information 3, 4, 5. This is 6, this is 7. All these are integrated together to form this entity. That is student result management system. This is how we are going to consider that. The requirements, what is the requirement? The requirement is to generate a mark sheet. The requirement is to generate a student information reports. All those things are generated with the help of these external inputs. So the external inputs are interacting with the system to produce an output like this. So this is possible only with good properties of an SRS document. So with this, I'm going to conclude this session. Kindly come back to me if you have any questions with respect to the topics I have discussed in today's session. Thank you very much. Thank you one and all.